Brodrick Norman has a really interesting background and a career path. He graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point. In 2012, by a leap of faith, he did his first real estate deal and made $10,000. I'll let Broderick share the rest of his story with you. By the way, we have a small favor to ask. If you like the show, please help us by leaving a review and share it with others. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit that notification bell. Now, let's get to the intro. Hey ballers, welcome to episode 109. With me is Brodrick Norman, an officer of the U.S. Army, a real estate investor, and an REBaller. Hey Brodrick, welcome to the show.
Hey V, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm very good. How about you?
I'm doing well. It's Friday today. I'm not sure what day everybody's watching this, but it's brand new year, brand new start, and that all makes it exciting.
Yeah, for the listener, of course, we pre-recorded this show. Anyway, it is Friday afternoon, evening, and I'm making Brodrick work.
Yes, yes, indeed.
So, hey, we've known each other throughout the years, but we just finally had a chance to really talk about what you do recently. But before we get into that, can you tell us about a little bit about yourself? Maybe we'll start with where you were born and raised.
So I'm originally from Texas, actually Galveston, born on the island, BOI, if you will. And so this is really, where I grew up. I'm a South Side dude. I live in South, the Clear Lake area, Friendswood area. So I have a gravity towards this area, but I've lived all over. So I went to undergrad in New York. I moved around Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, all in the Army, Airborne School, Air Assault School. I'm stationed in the 101st Airborne Air Assault. And then I got out of the military and I lived in San Francisco Bay Area. So I was in business development for Johnson & Johnson Esthicon, selling sutures on the peninsula. So Stanford was my biggest hospital, selling and surgery. And then I got out of that job. I did that for 2 years, did well. And then I moved to Austin. I worked for a couple of startup companies in business development and then computer associates. Then went to grad school and got my MBA in finance. So full time, which was challenging with a family. So
Did you also tell us that you went to the College of the Army?
I did. So it's United States Military Academy at West Point. So I played football there, and it was an exciting opportunity. And I met a lot of people that I'm still in touch with and friends with today. It really shaped, I think, who I am.
So you were at the Chris Voss training class last year, and
Yes.
when we had this exercise, and they were talking about what you were passionate about. You said you were passionate about Army football.
Yes, I am passionate about Army football, and that still rings true. So we beat Air Force and Navy this year. We beat Navy 3 out of 4 times when I was there. And that's something that I take a lot of, I really enjoy, but it also is a great chance to, really connect with people that I think, for the most part, think and have similar values to me. So that's a very unique opportunity, and I seize that when I can.
Yeah, I did not grow up in America, so I'm still learning about football. You were born and raised in Galveston.
hmm I was born in Galveston, and we left at a young age and moved up to the Webster area. So that's not far from where I live now, although I've lived all over. And it's interesting because most of my real estate stuff I do is not in this immediate area. I've done a subdivision in Santa Fe. Um, I've been at it, kind of actively looking at stuff in Brazoria County, but a lot of my stuff is out near Bryan or, West Coast, moving towards Austin. So my projects aren't in my immediate vicinity.
Which branch were you in the Army?
In the Army, I was in the Signal Corps, so I was a communications officer. But initially in the communications platoon, and then I was stationed with the with an artillery with artillery battalion.
Did you have to serve in any war or overseas?
I was not sir. I did not serve in any conflicts, and I did not serve overseas either. So the timing of when I was in and the duration of when I was in, that wasn't my lot per se.
Yeah. And how many years were you required to serve?
I was in for 3 years
Yeah.
active. I was required to be in for 5, but there's a peace dividend. So because we were drawing down the military at the time I was in, there was voluntary chances for people to get out, and I took that. Um, so I was in for 3 instead of 5, plus the 4 years at West Point, so technically 7.
What was your biggest lesson that you learned during that time?
During which time? During school? I'd say during
Yeah, yeah,
school it was perseverance.
yeah.
So that was the toughest thing I've ever done. So it really grounded me into thinking that I have the staying power to finish the race and be successful.
How did you transition from that into where you are today in real estate?
The way I transitioned, I think I picked up a lot of lessons at each one of the one in the military, but then I had some corporate experience and entrepreneurial experience before I started real estate. I'd started a currency trading program, which is like a fund with managed accounts, and I'd raised money before, but I had decided to when I first started real estate, just do my own thing without raising capital. But I think I had a background towards that. And
Mhm.
I think I also had a strong analytical background, which, and then as well as a business development background that really helped. So a lot of times I say, one of the things I'll say is leverage what you have. Like I'm not a very technical person from a improvement standpoint. I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and analyze all the rehabs and everything, but I do think I have a strong analytical skills, strong negotiation skills, and a strong sales skills. So what that allowed me to do is wholesale, learn how to get in and out of deals, and managing risk or learning how to exit. A deal I think is very critical. How to enter and exit, right? So on the entering or the acquisition side is negotiation. On the exit is one, being able to have a strong framework of how that deal works, and two, being able to communicate that to other investors. I think those are some of my skill sets, and that allowed for the transition from sales and trading or managing capital or running a trading fund to doing real estate.
Well, what's the first thing you did in real estate?
First thing I did was I wholesale. So I
Okay.
went to a course, learned how to wholesale. And matter of fact, I talked to the guy I sold my first wholesale deal to about 3 weeks ago. I called him up out of the blue and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "What?" I go, "You were my first wholesale deal." I had no idea what I was doing. And he's like, "You're still in real estate?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Well, that's so great. I'm glad I helped start that." So that was really good. I was literally driving by a property he used to own. I just
Uh-huh.
called him out of the blue, and he took that call, and it made me feel good. And I think he felt good as well.
How long ago was that?
That was 2013. That was almost 8 years ago. Yeah, 8 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My first deal. I started in 12. It took me about a year to figure out what I was doing,
Yeah.
and I did my first deal in 13. My
But
first
but
deal I tried to do was an apartment building. I wanted to buy a distressed apartment building, and I was like, "We'll make $1 million," and everyone's like, "You don't know anything about fixing anything." But it was a distressed apartment building, and um, I said, "Okay, well, let me learn the basics." Contract. I lost $5,000 on my first deal. I put down $5,000 earnest money, and I didn't know what hard meant.
so 2013, right?
2012, really.
12. Okay.
Yeah,
That was when we were on the rise after '08.
exactly. So I was trading, and we were looking at risk
Yeah.
and from a trading perspective, we're like, this thing's about to blow, just get long risk, anything. And we tried to do it. As a matter of fact, my trading company, was shut down. The CEO where we were trading committed fraud, and I had to start all over. And I said I'll start all over in real estate.
Let's go back a little bit
Okay.
where you got out of the army and you said you were selling products for Johnson Johnson.
Yes,
What were you selling?
I was selling sutures.
Sutures. Okay.
So sutures are, I'm not sure if you have a medical background. They're the string you use to tie things up, either in surgery, in vitro in the body, or outside when you scratch yourself. So I also sold
Okay.
the super glue when it came out, right, for
Uh-huh.
closing wounds. So
Uh-huh.
I sold in surgery to plastic surgeons, cardiovascular surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, and that was my job. My goal was to be in surgery every day and walking surgeons and nurses on how to use our suture.
And then you went from there to being in financial, was it?
From there to working in business development with
Yeah.
a startup company in Austin. So we
Okay.
grew from, I was like employee number 4 or 5. We grew
Uh-huh.
to 66, like over 60 people.
And what field were they in?
It was customer relationship management for
Yeah.
sports teams. So we
Okay.
had kiosks. So you'd go to the stadium, you'd sign up, all your information.
Mm-hmm.
We would scan it at the stadium. We would
Mm-hmm.
send it to servers, and then you'd get a fan loyalty program card,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you swipe that card, and you press some things on the kiosk, answer some questions, and then you got a coupons, and you built points. So it was
Okay.
fan loyalty programs for sports teams,
So it's all different sport teams.
all different sport teams. So all the minor league teams, some professional football and basketball, and other local teams as well.
Okay. And then from there you went on to
I eventually went to grad school. So 01 happened in Austin,
yeah,
which is 2000 happened in Austin, meaning everything tanked. And
right?
I went to grad school to get an MBA to learn the financial interworkings of how things worked, of really business. And subsequently, I really learned that finance is a language of business. And so I think I gravitate towards people who, kind of have a grasp of the numbers and how a deal works.
Yeah. So that's where you develop your love for numbers.
Yeah, yes, somewhat. Yeah, I do. I think I like going through a deal and analyzing the numbers and figuring out how it works, and looking at my company and going, okay, how are we doing? Looking at our margins and our balance sheet and what's our engine for growth.
So when you did your first deal in real estate,
Mhm.
did you well, when you were looking into real estate or trying to get into real estate, did you think that you were going to be in real estate for this long?
I suspected I would because I bought my first duplex in 2000
Mm-hmm.
in Austin, and then I saw real estate go up and then kind of tank. There was a guy who had gone to my school who was about 3 or 4 years older than me,
Mm-hmm.
and he had this huge, massive real estate portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, I didn't know if wholesaling was the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd be syndicating and doing apartments. This
Mm-hmm.
would be my path. But once I started looking at guys who are successful, I was like, that guy's not smarter than me, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to work harder than me. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I know he's not smarter than me, and I know he's not going to work harder than me, so I can be successful.
We have a lot of people maybe looking to get into real estate this year, right? So
Right.
I'm going to delve into that first deal of yours a little bit, and then you can take us down the journey of where you are today. How did you find that first deal again?
My first deal was by accident. So I was looking for a deal, and I'd made an offer on a house, and they pulled it off the market, and it was a house and a lot that had been foreclosed upon on market, and they pulled the house off market, and then the lot came up for sale,
Yeah,
right? So I put an offer on the lot, and then the house came back on the market, and
yeah,
they were right next to each other with a
yeah.
pool, and so the guy put an offer on the house. No, what happened was a guy had bought the lot, waiting for the house to come on the market. When the house came on the market, I bought it. I put a contract on, and he went to put a contract in with my agent who had the listing.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at it. I wasn't crazy about it. The deal was right next to a bayou.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I probably could sell it to the guy that owns a lot right next door.
Mhm.
I could sell it to the guy who didn't get the offer. And so
Mhm.
he was like, "Well, you can't close." I'm like, "I can close, or I can sell it to you for $10,000 over what I have my contract in." So I had to learn how to do a wholesale deal, learn how to do a contract, everything else, and that was my first deal. I sold it to that individual who wanted it for $10,000 over my contract price. I was like, "Wow, this works."
This episode is brought to you by Buzz Vacation Rentals, a premier property management company in Houston and Galveston area. Give Buzz a call at 281-549-8432 to learn more about their rent guarantee program, or check out their website at listwithbuzz.com. Now, back to the Real Estate Baller Show. So you stumble on a deal, you bought
Yeah.
it, you sold it right away, made 10,000.
Yes.
You thought it was easy.
No, I knew it was hard. I knew it was lucky. So I heard like, I think I some, maybe I think I was at one of Eddie's meetings, or I was at a meeting, and somehow I came in contact with Prosperity,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, we're signing people up. It's $1,000 money back guarantee. And I said, okay, I don't know enough. I'm going to spend $1,000 and see if I can learn how to wholesale. And that's what started me. So
Okay.
I guess lesson training, we all talk either well or not well about mentors. Mentors are very key. If you can get one, if you can get a good one, I would definitely recommend it. I have people call me all the time. I try to make time for them. It's challenging because a lot of times being present is what gets you your first deal. There's no shortage for just being there,
Mhm.
right? Just being a squeaky wheel, being present, making an offer, getting lucky.
Mhm.
A large part of it is just being there and being persistent.
Mhm.
And I think because we all realize how key that is, we all have a soft spot in our heart to give time to someone, a guy, girl, child who's persistent. Eventually, you'll wear them down, you'll win them over, you'll impress them, or they'll give you someone that can get you more information.
Yeah.
And that's not to say be one. And let me preface that. That's not to say to be. I would tell people or anybody. It's not to be transactional, right? It's definitely giving and offering up things, but persistent in that way. Persistent in adding value.
Adding value. I like that. Okay. So what did you do after your first deal?
First deal, I took the prosperity course. Then I started marketing,
Uh-huh.
and then I started sending out postcards. And I got my next deal, and next deal, and next deal. And then I said, let me rehab, and that was a different game. And so I rehabbed, and I wasn't that good at it. I think maybe if I'd have stuck it out longer,
Yeah.
I could have become good at it. Or maybe if I would have changed the way I did things and partnered
Yeah.
and capitalized better. I think being undercapitalized, Eddie always says there's two ways you fail: one, being undercapitalized; two, being over leveraged.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter how hard you work,
Yeah.
right?
Because you and I
So,
know how much this business eat up cash.
oh, it eats up cash like crazy, and watching that cash flow thing just get sucked up can be, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so I would say going into rehabbing, that was something, a lot of times like our hard money lenders, like, you got to have more cash. Oh, that's screwing up my deal. No, no, no. You really need more cash, right? So start like you're buying all cash and then leverage out. Don't start like you're trying to leverage up. So assume you can buy it all cash and then you're leveraging just to increase your returns, right?
Yeah.
I think if we start that way, one will have an idea of doing more deals or having enough leverage to do multiple deals.
Okay. Say that again. That's very impactful.
So rather than looking at a deal and saying how much do I got, I got to bring 5 or 10,000 table, right? Just assume that you're going to be buying it all cash, and you're going to use leverage just to increase your returns. It's not magic. I mean, I have a mentor that's always tell me, he goes, "Yeah, real estate's great because you can leverage 100 to 1." Like, what we're doing, the returns are the returns, and as you get a hold of your numbers and you start looking at your deals, you're like, okay, over the course of deals, maybe it's 17 to 23%. It's what the deal does. Sorry. It's either 17 to 30. I'm sitting here talking and I'm like, dude, so it's either 17 to 23 or it's 30% or whatever. That's the numbers, right? I know you're like, I'm like right in the middle of the thing. But those are the numbers. Unless we're wholesaling, when you're super leveraged and it's more a different type of model. But if those are the numbers, then they're the numbers. You increase your returns by leverage. And
Okay. So when you were wholesaling, what do you have a goal of like, I got to make this much per property?
I did. I mean, it's been a while now.
Yeah.
I had goals of how much revenue I wanted to do, and the challenge of wholesaling is it can be cash intensive as well. For me, it was growing the model,
Hmm.
but I would look at, okay, if I'm wholesaling, I need to be making, try to hit 20% per property.
Hmm.
But I think when I wholesaled, I didn't grasp how much of a transactional model that is.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, if I listen, I'll hear wholesalers say, "Hey, someone stole my deal."
Hmm.
It's because time kills all deals.
Right.
So, in trying to maximize the profit of all deals, it should be to do a good deal that gets you the most money the quickest,
Okay.
right? Because it's like, I got a deal. No, you don't have a deal. You have a contract on a deal
Right.
that has an expiration date, that is with a seller who's in a position that needs you to close as soon as possible.
Yep.
So if I had to do over, it would be, and I do this now. When I get a wholesale deal, and I don't wholesale a lot, I've wholesale very little, as a matter of fact, but it's like, okay, it's 7 grand. Okay, that's 7 grand unless I have to bring from another source, or 10 grand, or 15, or it may be 30, but it's do the deal that's on the table. It's
Hmm.
almost like trading. Trade the board you have, not the board
Hmm.
you want,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just what the deal does.
Yeah. Did you have a team?
When I wholesaled, I did. I tried. I wasn't successful. Um, what I found is anybody that I could train to wholesale could
Uh-huh.
really go wholesale now, right? And then I met someone that I respected, and he's like, "I'm selling my wholesale business." Hmm. I don't know if I want to follow that guy in the business. He's exiting, right? He's like, "We're spending tons on marketing," and I'm like, do I want to go try to see if I'm smarter than him, or just go, let me look somewhere else?
Okay. So you transitioned and you started rehabbing.
Oh, well,
That
that's when
way?
I was rehabbing at the time. So
Uh-huh.
then I transitioned and I started doing land.
Okay.
So yeah, I did. I looked at my most successful deals were typically lots. Buy at a third, sell at a half. So I call up wholesalers and go, hey, here's a deal. You're going to double your money. I don't know if it's going to take 1 year, 2 or 3, but you'll double your money. And a lot of wholesalers have jobs and they're like, okay, if I can double my money by not doing anything, I'm cool with that. So I would buy lots, and then came upon a really good deal with like a ton of equity, and I was like, oh wow, I like this land stuff. And then I realized, okay, it's kind of hard to find product. Maybe I can create my own product. So I started creating my own product, and I think in a mature market, we create our own product. I mean,
How do
houses
you
are
how do you
so
create
how
your products?
so you can buy and develop land, right?
Uh-huh.
You can look at the sum of all parts, right? You can say, okay, if I put a mobile on a lot, I got a land on package and I can rent it out. So you're creating, right? You're taking, eggs and flour and you're making a cake,
Yeah.
because everybody's out there looking for the distressed product, right? But in a mature market, you create product. There's more lending sources. People are more comfortable with stuff like land because we're in a mature market. So there's different products will get a different ear.
Define mature market for us, for those people that may not know what that is.
So right now we're in a mature market in that, housing is going through the roof. Rates are at record lows on top of record lows, right?
Mhm.
So capital is aplenty. Housing is doing really well. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people. It's like almost like if you look at Porter's Five Forces, right?
Mhm.
How competitive is the market? It's very competitive, right?
Yep.
So if you look at your contractors, they have a lot of power.
Yeah.
There's intense competition within the market. You can almost like look at Porter's Five Forces as a model for looking at a market. So When it looks like that, which is like this, we have to figure out how can I do something different? How can I create a product? I mean, subdivisions look a lot different when it's 2008. People are like, I don't want to buy a subdivision. There's houses everywhere. Why do I want lots? Now people are like, I can't find houses. Maybe I can go find a lot and build a house and add value there. Or maybe I can buy 100-acre tract and subdivide it and sell it to people that want to put houses on.
So where do you go to find these properties, the
Where do I
land?
go to find properties? There's land. Have you driven around Texas? Where did you not see land?
When you were looking or marketing the leads for homes, you mail a letter.
Yes.
Do you do that too with land?
I don't. I just go looking. I mean, I look, there's land everywhere, right?
It's not
It's
like
like,
there's a mailbox you can.
no, but there's like, if only there's a place where you could
Uh-huh.
look and there'd be a lot of people wanting to sell land. That
Okay.
would be a great idea. And there's tons of them, right? There's public available sources. There's HAR, there's Lands of Texas, there's Land Watch. There's tons of people that want to sell land.
Is it hard to evaluate the value?
It's hard to evaluate a value. So I'd like to say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? So it's challenging, but if you have a model or a time frame or a sense of value, it gives, I think, insight and an edge. It's almost like trading. If you think about trading, you can be
Uh-huh.
wrong more than you're right? But as long as you have a model and an edge and you know how to manage your risk, you'll do well. You can be right 35% of the time and be wealthy, right? Now, land investing is different, but if you have a model, if I have a model on what I'm looking for in a sense of what's worked before and
Uh-huh.
someone to bounce stuff off of, I have an edge.
Yeah.
So it's not where's a distressed person, it's do you have an edge? And I 100% think in my military mind I have an edge.
So you don't necessarily look for land in like way out farmland.
That's it. But you're starting, I think you're going to the how. And
Uh,
so then it's really how do you develop an edge? So it's all an edge. It's all in the, hey, I got a way of looking at it and I am confident enough in my ability to work my system, if that's sense. And system is a fancy word. But when I look at something like, okay, this is worth X if I do Y, and the market will respond well to that. I think when you say, how do you find stuff, you're thinking, okay, it's got to, remember, land is worth what you make of it, right? That's why, when people say most wealth is created in real estate, a lot of it's created in land, like
land
crazy.
is worth what you make of it. Okay.
Land is make of what you make of it. So when someone says, what's the land worth? They say, what do you plan on doing for it, right? If
Yeah.
you're going to build a house, it's worth X. But if you're going to build an apartment building, it's worth Y,
Yeah.
right? So it's a raw material for every real estate
Right.
transaction,
Uh-huh.
and its value is dependent on the end goal. I have a buddy that goes out and buys, tracts of land. He repurposes them in Austin. The guy kills it. I
Yeah.
mean, kills it a lot, and because he has an edge and he knows how to repurpose that, not build, just repurpose, just entitle and have a different purpose of it, and the value goes up multiples. You're like, how does he find it? It's like he just has an edge.
So repurpose, does that mean you split it up
You
at
can split it up, or you can also entitle. So you can find land that's entitled for single family, and that's an area where it'd be good to have multifamily, and you get it entitled as multifamily, and it's worth more. Because single family, maybe you can put a $500,000, $1 million house, and if it's good for apartments, if you could put a $10 million apartment building, then it's worth 20% of the final cost, and now it's worth 2 million. Those are much different numbers.
yeah.
So it's not like, I think the challenge is people go, how do I want to do what you do? And I'm like, dude, you gotta. It takes time to learn what the end product looks like, and what the beginning product looks like, and what their process is. And it's not necessarily finding someone that's distressed. It's knowing what the end product is. It's 1 + 1 = 3, or 1 + 1 = 5. Go like literally you can get, systems and look at the end product and go, I want to find something that I can make into that. And it may start with someone selling lots. Okay, I'm selling lots in Sunnyside. Well, or I'm selling lots in Sealy, or selling lots in, but man, I wish it'd be great if I could find 5 lots. Well, I got to go create 5 lots.
So you don't necessarily buy a one lot in a subdivision.
I would, I
Okay.
would if it was, at a lower price and I could make money. But everybody could do that. It doesn't take a whole lot of. It doesn't take a lot of edge to do that. It doesn't take a lot of vision. Now, if you could buy five and subdivide them in an interior and then sell them, that requires a little bit more work, and people discount work. I did a deal in Santa Fe that was 10 acres, and I subdivided it and made very good return, and it was just work, and people hadn't done it before, and it's okay. And when I did that product, that deal, I learned a lot. My edge got sharpened.
So do you find it hard to get financing for these deals?
It is slightly. I find it challenging.
Yeah.
So I raise capital for all my deals, right? So I'll grab a bunch of people and we'll raise whatever. And so again, we start like, okay, we used to do them all cash.
Hmm.
Now we'll do them 70% loan to cost, which I used to think was crazy, right? Or
Hmm.
if someone maybe 65 I really need it, or I probably could do 50, but that would stink. But now it's okay. How much cash do we need to bring to the deal? But the cash isn't as much a problem as just getting the debt, because what the debt does is it doesn't cause me to make any more money. I don't make any more money if you're doing I hate to use word syndication, but a partnership and everything else. Typically, the operator makes no more money for having debt. But what I do get to do is I get to juice returns and get people excited. Like, if you're going to make 20% on a deal and you're 3-to-1 leverage and it's 60%, guys and girls get a little bit more excited about that. But it's another obstacle for me to manage because now I have debt, right? Things
Right.
get more risky as you leverage, but there's a whole bunch of people on the boat with me.
Give us an example of how you structure that.
Of how do you structure a deal? So you want me to do it with a house or with land or with a
With
boat
the
or
land.
with the
Let's do it with
land?
the land.
So for example, how? Like on a deal I've done, or a deal we'll do broad strokes, right? I'll use my
Yeah.
buddy as a reference. So,
Okay.
and not to talk too much about him, like he's bought 5 acres for like 1.5 million. He'll raise 750,000, um, and do a 50-50 split on the equity side. And you say if you buy
I'm
1 million,
gonna dumb it down a little bit. What
okay,
is the
go ahead.
50 split on an equity
Okay,
side?
so in any deal, there's equity and there's debt, right? Equity is the money you bring or the value. Really, it's not really the money, but there's value. So if you have something that's worth $10 and you buy it for five,
Hmm.
there's $5 of equity. Or say it's worth 10 and you buy it for seven, there's $3 worth of equity.
Okay.
Additionally, if it's worth 10 and you put three down, you have equity. But in our case specifically, there's equity capital. There's people that put together money and we go buy stuff,
Hmm.
right? So say we find I forgot the numbers I was using, but say we find $1 million place and we go and we buy, I think we take 600,000 and we buy it, right? So we have a $400,000 loan, we have 600 in equity, right? And say if that property goes up to 2 million, or we do something,
Hmm.
we sell everything for 2 million. If we ignore closing costs and transaction costs, we've made a million on that deal,
Okay.
right? So 600 in equity has
Right.
made a million. So if you say there's a split, 500 and 500, 500 to the principal or 500 to the manager and 500 to the to the limited partners. So the guys that put in six make five.
Okay.
That gets them excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
make 500,000 on 600,000.
Yeah.
People get
Yeah. All day
excited.
long.
And then the manager makes 500,000 for doing the deal. The manager doesn't make any more, but leverage. If he would have bought that for a million, made a million, still make 500,000.
So
But
the manager does not have any equity.
well, he has equity. He has 50% of the profits, right?
Uh huh.
Or she has 50% of profits. But now, what leverage does is it increases return on equity. So as you analyze a deal, a lot of times it's okay. The leverage just increases my returns, allows me to do a deal with less capital. Now, the challenge is raising the capital, managing expectations, acquisition, and disposition. But if a person can do that well, then they
Yeah.
can maybe do two or three deals at a time. Now it starts to look like a business.
Yeah.
So if you're doing, instead of buying $100,000 house, if you're buying $3 million pieces of land, then the opportunity is to make a lot more capital, both for both investors. There's equity and debt investors, right? So the equity investors, that investors are still getting returns, and for the manager. So there's three constituencies in a deal.
So the equity investors are passive.
They're passive,
The manager is the active one, the one that's working,
active.
putting.
The one
Okay.
that's working, putting everything else. There's still a communication standpoint, and there's still the chance for unhappy equity investors to either sell their interest or exit.
Mhm.
But yes, that is a passive, and it has to be passive or limited, because when I think when I'm managing deals, sometimes
Mhm.
people can get in your head, right? And the emotional ups and downs of the deal is the most challenging thing. It's managing, on a day-to-day basis, saying we're going to keep putting the ball forward, keep putting the ball forward.
That's fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
How long does it take from the start to finish normally?
Typically, I'd say 2 years, but it's typically 8 to 14 months.
So once it's done, so you guys dissolve that partnership.
We dissolve the partnership. But I would say another thing is it requires a lot more scrutiny from the financial reporting side. And
Yeah.
it's good to have that accountability.
And you like that way more than houses.
Oh, good gracious. If I was doing houses, I'd do it the same way, though.
Yeah.
Remember, you read about the guys who are buying all these houses? They're raising capital and go, let's go buy 100 houses.
Uh-huh.
The challenge is, and it's almost like the challenge in asking for mentorship. The challenging is in asking capital and raising capital is we don't ask for enough. Like you're like, okay, I need to go raise 200 grand. You're like, okay, you can make hundreds, right? Like you're not going to make any money because you're not raising enough money.
Right, right, right.
This is a scale game and it's a volume game. We
Yeah.
treat it like it's not, it's scale and volume. And I think it took me a long time to realize that, but it's like wholesaling. Wholesaling's great. Go do 10 million. How exactly?
Right.
Right? I mean, there's somebody can make it, but there's a reason why you franchise businesses, right? Low barrier. Look at what type of business is great for interest. Low barriers to entry, easily repeatable,
Yep.
needs standardization. Franchise. The people that decide to franchise businesses aren't not smart. They're very smart, right? They're like,
Yep.
this is a lot of work. Let's franchise.
Right.
Hello? Yeah, it's not to say anything. It's like, yeah, let's franchise. Okay. So if you start looking at businesses critically,
Mhm.
then it's just how would you do your business if you had to do 20 million in sales? Or how would you do your business? What is it like? Only 2% businesses making over 10%, over 10 million in sales. I don't know. It's a low number. But if you had to do 10 million in sales, how would you do your business?
Yeah, you and I just had that conversation the other day.
Yeah, you could like, I didn't call for a coaching session. I was like, I was like, I was like, that's it. If you had to do 10 million sales, what would you do? Like, I do it differently. Okay, go do it that way.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was really good.
Think
So,
about the people we look at and like that guy's doing well. They do more sales than we do. Like, are they smarter? Yeah, they're just as smart. Do they work hard? They work hard, but they scale their business. And a lot of times we're like, I need to scale my business. I need to scale my business. You need to sell more, which means you need to buy more, which means you
right.
need to have more money. Like
Yeah,
those aren't
that
optional.
term scale is so it's I feel like it's used so loosely. Well, what
It
does scale
is.
mean really, you know?
Like you can create scale. You can force scale. How do you force scale? Go buy 100 houses. Oh wow, I need scale. Yeah, because you're gonna get tired buying 100 houses, right? You need
Yeah.
scale. Okay, go buy 500 acres of land. Wow, 500 acre land a lot. Yeah, it is. So yeah, we bought. I don't know. We sold almost 3 million in land last year. Right? Our goal is to sell 5 million this year. Got to scale.
So how was your 2020?
My 2020 was good. We did almost 3 million in sales.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank
think most people had a good 2020?
you. I don't know. I know most people I talk to did, but it's tough because like doing well without knowing your numbers is not doing well. So I
Right.
spent a lot of money on counting and getting straight. I'm tracking gross margins on my business and tracking that. I don't track net margins as much because I track gross margins to see if I'm doing good deals.
Hmm.
But I think the chat, like, if guys are getting around or girls are getting around and they're not talking about the financial challenges of business, of accounting and taxes and hey, I screwed up, then it's tough because in order to really have accountability partners, you got to have trust, right? So it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to hear how someone did who doesn't trust me to tell me how they screwed up. No value in that. Yeah. Like, you ever hear about guys go, man, I almost went broke, right? Like, I had a great year. I caught up on my house. Nobody says that, right? Right? Like, I partnered because I was screwing up, and now I make more money. That's how life works.
Agree.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I feel like in our industry, there's more people who talk than people who do.
yeah. There's more people talk, and there's people who. I mean, there's a whole story, right? It's like I was saying, oh, I did a stock went well. Well, that's not how stock trading works, right? There's a whole bunch that don't do well. And so you learn. It's almost like I think the fortune builder said. You learn. If you have a mentor, go look at their rent houses. Sit down and say, hey, show me how your books go. Show me what you have above the line and below the line. Show me how your balance sheet. How do you keep track of your amortization schedules in QuickBooks? Like that's the stuff I need help with.
So your challenges are not to put the deals together, not to find the deals, but the back office.
Back office, I would say, because if when there's a long period of time I didn't really know what my company was doing. Which you measure, you can control or manage. And so if we're not having those conversations, then learning how to negotiate is only so. I mean, I think the challenge is finding some guys and girls you can be real with and be like, man, I can't believe I spent X on Y. Like,
So, I mean, you've been around since for 8 years now,
yes,
right? 8 years.
yes.
So obviously you've done something right because most people would have been gone out, do something else already. So if you have to give the listener three lessons learned.
Three lesson learned. That's a good point. One, I'd say partner. I was reluctant to partner. I'd say pick good partners, but partner. Two, I'd say treat your private lenders well. I think I've done that for the most part. I think there's one time I, got in trouble with a deal, and it bothers you when you do. Right. So treat your private lenders well because they become your friends, and a lot of them are smart. And they can help you out. And I'd say just try to be authentic. Don't be. It's like Mitch Stevens says, don't do what I do. Go do Tom Brady does and make more money. Right. So be authentic, and our businesses have to look different because we look different.
Yeah.
Right. There's stuff I'm comfortable doing, like you might not be comfortable doing. Like I
Right.
got cattle. I got 14 head of cattle, and
Yeah.
I'm totally cool going out there feeding the cows and all that, and go and that's fine. That's me. But I do not enjoy driving or walking a house. I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy raising capital. I enjoy putting together LCs with different people and changing lives. So be authentic. Treat your lenders and partners well, and and partner. Three things.
Partners. So like have a business partners,
No, have financial partners.
financial partners. Okay.
So one thing I always say is I like partnering with money more than partnering with people. So I would say pick business partners very, 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 very slowly, but financial partner.
Where do you go to find partners?
I think it starts with lenders. I think it starts with, well, the easiest way is a partner is seller finance. Great partnership. Hey, I can't afford to buy this deal. Having struggling with this deal.
Mhm.
Talk to the seller and see if you can finance. For best partner you can do.
That's the
Right?
best money you can get, isn't it?
Best money you can get. So that's a place to partner. Another place to partner is every time you take a loan, that relationship is a little bit adversarial by nature, but every time you take a loan, you're partnering. And those become people, if they see you can make money, they're like, oh, that's how I started my first partnership. A guy, one of my lenders saw I made money, and he's like, next time I'd rather be an equity partner in the deal. It's like, okay. We've done several deals. We just did a deal. We just closed a deal. He made 70%, 1.5 year return, right? And he's
Yeah.
done like three or four, and he's doing well. And it's been a great relationship.
Amazing. Those are really great lessons.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, what is one thing that people might be surprised to know about you?
Oh man, in what regard?
Anything.
Uh, I do not like the dark. I wouldn't say the dark, but when I'm home alone, dude, I freak out. So I like
Okay,
being.
so for people who are listening and not watching, Brodrick is like the football player frame.
So I'd say my daughter can be at home with like upstairs and like all the doors are shut and everything. I'm like, man, I come home by myself, and if it's been a while, I got to check every closet. I got to clear every room. So I'd say that's what people are surprised by me.
Well, as we wrapping up, how does the audience get in touch with you?
A good way to do it is, my cell phone, which is on my Facebook page, right?
Okay.
So people can go there, but also they can DM me on Landkey TX, which is on our Instagram, or you can shoot me a message on Facebook, Landkey TX, which is our branding arm of our business, and shoot a message and it'll get to me.
Well, that's all for today's episode of the Real Estate Ballers. Thanks for watching, and thank you, Brodrick, for joining me today. Don't forget to visit our website at reballers.com to learn more about us. If you found value in this show, we appreciate a thumb up, or if you simply tell a friend about us, that would help too. And please hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss another show. We'll see you in the next episode.